Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. My name is Deborah Peters, of course, and I want to say thank you for joining me today. This is a really big show for me to come out with what I've experienced in my past. And, it's Easter, it's a time of resurrection, and I just think that it's important to share this information with you. Before we get into the show, let me just tell you what this whole show is about in general. It's about consciousness. It's about increasing your own capacity to accept and receive your own greatness with grace. And I cover 5 main pillars: health, wealth, relationships, business, and self-expression. And it's really, truly born out of a calling on my life. It's what I'm meant to do with my talent. And as the world becomes more and more volatile, I just realize that, yeah, I need to start singing my song and telling my story, because it's in the telling of my own story and how I've transformed myself and my life that it sets others free. And truly, I've come through this whole healing process because I chose to get conscious, and it hasn't been easy. It's been a hell of a journey, frankly. Where that's enabled me to be able to help people. You can't help people transform their own lives if you aren't truly connected with the divinity that lies within your own heart. And it's taken me a minute to get there. I've had some conversations with myself where I've actually, called myself out and said, hey, you're still dancing around yourself. You're still circling around your talent and really showing it to the world. And honestly, there's a reason for that. And I've made a lot of notes for today. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that it's taken me pretty much all of my life to just come clean with everyone and tell my story. And that's, frankly, it's the shame of it, the shame of having, in my view, such a hideous background, such a hideous backstory. And that's not to blame anyone. It's really just almost unconscionable that the things that went on in my childhood and in my family lineage actually took place. Like, it's just mind blowing to me anyway. I just think that, we're really here and we're on this planet to help each other and love each other. And I suppose in some way that was happening within our family and within the generations of our family. But yeah, you have to dig hard to find it. And so I want to share with you, I'm not going to get into a lot of the content about, this happened to me and that happened to me, because I don't really think there's a whole lot of value in telling a sad story again. In fact, there's probably very little value in continuing to tell the sad story. Although I will say that, human beings are pretty conditioned to love the hero. They want to hear all the nitty gritty about the backstory and how hard it was. And then they want to hear about the breakthrough. And so they can actually justify the hard times in their own lives and find light at the end of the tunnel and go, well, if she can break through that, then so can I. But I think it would be better for me to share with you what I identified as my way through, and then how I leveraged that, and not just one time, because these breakthroughs aren't just a one-time deal in your life. If you're going through anything hard or difficult or challenging, I want you to know that you can change it. Whatever it is, everything is temporary. Nothing is permanent. You're not going to be down forever. The wheel is round and it turns, and what's down comes up and what's up goes down, and we go through these cycles in our lives where we're actually able to set ourselves free if we have the right tools. So I want you guys to definitely drop in a comment and say hello. Let me know that you're here, and maybe what it is that you would like to get some information on or some help on that you're challenged with in your life that you would like to be able to move through. Because I can tell you, I've probably been there, done that. So let's just kind of get into this a little bit about my backstory. I grew up more or less an only child because I was so much younger than my siblings, and it was a really sort of difficult time, just because of the programming in our family. There was a lot of abuse, there was a lot of alcoholism, there was gun violence, there was sexual abuse, there was just really dark times, a lot of depression, and criticism was very much the norm. It was people were kind of hard pressed to be nice to each other. And then there was the crab theory. You know about the crab theory, right? The crab theory is when someone in the group or the family or whatever starts to work their way out, then the crabs will reach up and they'll pull the crab that's escaping back down into the tank. And that's a very common issue in society. We see it all the time where people are really having a hard go, and then they figure out a way out. And when they figure out the way out, then the other people around them are like, no, you can't leave us behind. And I experienced that too, where it was, I left, I just basically said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go create my own life. I'm going to create my own reality. I'm going to create my own belief system. I'm going to create my own value system. I'm going to create my own path in the world. I'm not going to follow anybody. And that didn't go over very well. I mean, there was a lot of people that were really angry at me for leaving. And, I left geographically, I left mentally, I left emotionally, I completely disconnected spiritually and got on a whole other plane of existence in my spiritual awareness. And I just basically kept walking. The first move really wasn't far enough, even though it was across the country. I still felt the energetic tie. When I left, nobody really took the time to say goodbye to me or wish me well. There was no send-off party. I think there was a level of, I don't even know what the word is besides anger, rage maybe, that I would have the nerve to disconnect like that and just forge my own path. But I'm kind of wired that way. And I guess that's the blessing on my life, as much as I had to work through these really thick fogs of family curses and generational curses, which at the time I didn't even realize were a curse, But I've come to discover that later as I worked through the different layers of programming to actually come into a realization that you can literally walk away from your past. You can walk away from your ties, and you can change all of that. You can change anything you're going through. You can actually adjust and change. Any result you're getting, you can actually adjust and change. Any relationship dynamic you're having, especially the one that you have with yourself, you can completely adjust and change that. And you can do it more than one time. You can reinvent yourself. You can become a new individual, a new level of awareness within yourself anytime you want. So I had all of these things going on in my early years, and I decided to leave, and I decided to move, and then when I made my second biggest move to a different country, you know, the conversation within my family was that, you know, in 3 years I'd be back with my tail between my legs. So there was no real, oh my gosh, way to go, congratulations, we're so proud of you. If there's anything you need, if you just need to talk, like there was none of that. And in fact, it was like, well, you left, so therefore you don't get to have any part of this family anymore, which I guess was probably the biggest blessing I've ever received in my life. But I want to unpack what happens when a child goes through abuse. That's number one. How that shifts and changes their psychology and their ability to relate to themselves, relate to others, relate to life, get on in society, create something for themselves. And then I want to actually go into how that affects you as an adult and where that may be showing up in your life and your career and your relationships and your body. And then I want to get into actually how to change that, because I want to have this broadcast today, this episode of how I transformed my abusive, traumatic past into success, turn it into a toolbox for you guys that you can use to then move the needle on any part of your life in terms of whatever's going on with you. And I can tell you that I've used these tools with myself to change the way I actually look, you know, transform how I look and to bring out my inner beauty. I've used it to change my body, the shape of my body, the health of my body. I've healed myself of a major terminal disease. I've used this to heal all of my relationships. I've used this to heal my finances and basically how life treats me, you know, how the experiences I have in my life and my relationships. So let's get into it. So my life today doesn't look anything like my life 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 40 years ago. My life looks completely different. In fact, I remember having some pictures of me when I was in my 20s, and there was times, it wasn't consistent because it depended on what I was going through, but there were times where I was really like unattractive, like borderline ugly. Like I'd look at that picture and go, wow, who is that person? You know, and there was just so much pain in me that it was distorting my features. And so it can also distort your body. It can distort the cells in your body can go wonky and throw off your energy of your cells, your metabolic systems can be thrown off. And then that's when disease sets in. And I'll tell you, you know, I've basically been able to dodge the bullet on a lot of different life-threatening diseases because I've worked on myself. You know, there was a period of time when I was in my 30s where I just, you know, they couldn't diagnose me with anything. So they sort of said, oh, you've got like chronic fatigue. But really what it was inflammation in my body, and my adrenals were completely shot. I went through about a 3-year period where I just couldn't function. I would get up in the morning, take my daughter to school, try to do some work. I was in sales at the time, and I just couldn't keep my eyes open, and I'd have to sleep half of the day. And I did that for like 3 years. I have no idea how I survived, you know. And of course, you know, the doctors don't know what's wrong with you. But if we could have just addressed, you know, some psychological stuff and some nutritional things, I was making myself sick through the traditional diet or food system that I was eating, with all of the preservatives and the processed foods and the breads and just all of that stuff, and the sugar. The sugar is a big deal. Um, and they had no idea how to even think about that, much less guide me to change that. I actually had to find someone that was involved in this multi-level marketing for vitamins. And she's like, oh, you've got these things going on. And as soon as I started cleaning up my nutrition, my brain fog went away and I was actually able to start to function. But that was just a symptom, that was coming out of the abuse in my background that was festering in my cells that nobody had any idea how to address, least of all me. So let's just talk a little bit about what abuse does to your psychology and how abuse affects the cells of the body. So first off, what's abuse? I've made a long list. But abuse is abandonment. So if you're abandoned as a child and you don't get the nurturing, I can tell you out of probably 99% of the clients that I've coached in the last 20 some years, abandonment and lack of nurturing in their childhood is a number one issue for most of their problems. They just didn't get the nurturing. They didn't get the loving, bonding, intimate connection of vulnerability with their parents that would enable them to form a bond of trust. And when you're abandoned, you can't trust the process of life because you don't know where your next morsel of anything is coming from. Love, attention, affection, food, water. Like you don't know. Your life is not stable. Let's just put it that way. So abandonment is a big issue. Neglect. They're kind of similar, but sometimes in a family dynamic, at least I know in mine, the neglect at times was it was by design. We would be having conversations and people within the room or at the dinner table or whatever would purposefully ignore what the other person was saying, like there was no conversation going on. Now, I don't know if they were maybe checked out inside their mind and stressed about something. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just pointing this stuff out to you guys so you can start to identify some of the things that might be holding you back in your life, why you haven't been able to break through certain set points, certain ceiling of earnings or relationships or health or however it's manifesting for you. So neglect is a big deal. Criticism is a big deal. Sometimes parents think that when they point out what the kid did not get right and ignore what they got right, then they'll fix what they didn't get right. But actually the opposite is true. What that really does is that dismisses what the child did well, and it shines the spotlight on what they didn't do or didn't do well. And whenever you focus on something negative and positive, whenever you focus on something negative, it expands, it becomes bigger. And especially if there's a positive and you ignore the positive and you focus on the negative, then the negative just kind of like envelops the positive and it takes over your life. And the same is true when you acknowledge a positive, then the positive takes over all the negatives and envelops your life. So that's why being positive is so critical. Gaslighting. Yeah, 100%. So when you become more aware, or if you already are aware and you're in the presence of people who are gaslighters and they try to spin what's happening and make it out like you're the one, then it's like ridiculous. It makes you feel like you're crazy. And it gets to the point where you are kind of feeling crazy because they're lying and they're making it up and they're spinning it, but they won't admit to it. So gaslighting is a big deal. And then of course deflecting. You ask a question and they blow you off. It's like they refuse to deal with it. So it's a deflecting. It's like, my family was big on sweeping everything under the carpet. Everything was swept under the carpet. And as a result of that, the rage level in my family was like up here. It was like off the chain, it was like through the roof. So rage is a really big issue, and when these kinds of things are patterns. So 0 to 7 are the imprint years. It's the beginning of the child's time of creating their psychology, of their relationship to the world, their model of the world, if you will. And they just kind of are like these little sponges, they'll take in all of it and they accept it because they don't have anything to the contrary to say that it's not accurate. And when you have a little kid and a big adult, and the adult is this authority figure and they represent protection, then you accept it. So an adult, looks at a kid and says something mean, the kid accepts it because the adult is the authority figure. And it's the same with abuse. When an adult abuses a child, then the child accepts that as the norm. And then they start to expect it. They create this model of the world in their mind that says, this is how relationships function. They're dysfunctional, they're abusive, and maybe it's physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse. What else did I put down here? Sexual abuse. It could be all of those things. And so you got to know where I stand on this whole pedophile thing being normalized. I mean, it's a brainwashing of the children to accept something that is so evil and hideous that it just makes me want to vomit, frankly. And I just, I'm just being real with you guys, because I experienced that as a child. And when you're sexualized early, then it distorts your entire reality of the world. You have no idea who you are. I always say that when a child is molested, it flips them upside down within themselves in terms of what's good and what's not good. And it's kind of like a boat that capsizes in the ocean. Most people, did you know that most people drowned when a boat capsizes? Most of the time, the reason people drowned is because they're turned around, their equilibrium is off, and so they swim down instead of swimming up. And that's what happens psychologically with a child that is molested or sexually abused or taken advantage of sexually, because they lack the spiritual awareness and the emotional maturity to deal with it. So it flips them upside down within themselves psychologically, and they have a really hard time figuring out who they are, like their connection to God, like the divinity within themselves gets like buried out of view for them. And so when there's this abandonment and this abuse, most people will spend, and I just talked to a guy today, and we were having this dialogue this morning, and we had this conversation, and he said, Deborah, I'm in my mid-50s and I've spent most of my life looking in the rear view mirror. And it's because I was abused as a child. And how much of his life could he have made different if he would have had a different start in life that would enable him to look out the windshield of life instead of looking in the rearview mirror of life, waiting for the other shoe to drop? Because that's essentially what abuse does to you. It keeps you looking at the past, trying to fix the past, trying to resolve the past, trying to make sense of the past. Like, why is this happening? Why are these people like this? Why are they doing this to me? Why do people behave this way? I mean, I spent the early part of my life trying to figure out. That's why I became like a coach, a human engineer, and studied neuroscience, I wanted to understand, like, why do people act and behave this way? I couldn't let it go. It was like an insatiable thing within me. And, it served me well. I was able to make a phenomenal career and business out of it. But I know now, in retrospect, I was spinning my wheels a lot for a long time, looking in that rearview mirror, trying to figure it all out. And, not that we shouldn't want to understand what drives people to abuse each other, or worse, abuse a child or a baby, but the why isn't going to change where you're at today. The why has nothing to do with where you're at today. And you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out why your mother, father, aunt, uncle, sister, brother, whomever, neighbor sexually abused you. But all that's going to do is it's going to keep you from moving forward in your life. And, this is Easter weekend coming up. This is the resurrection. If there's a time to resurrect yourself, wow, this is it. Sorry, don't mean to get emotional, but I just had this huge epiphany. It's like, when I planned the show, I didn't think about the date or the timing, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So, we have all these different ways of experiencing abuse. And at the end of the day, it's like, anytime that we're just not loved, because love is the basis for all, the flip side of that is abuse. And it's really time, people in humanity, to stop abusing ourselves. I believe that as each person self-discovers and taps back into their self-love, the self-love you're born into, then there'll be no need to fight and war and tear other people down. I had this experience recently where I had a meeting set up with a woman for tonight. And she was going out to meet with her headquarters last week. And when she let me know that she was going, I responded and I said, hey, I've sent them a proposal for some consulting work. Would you put a good word in for me? And she came back with an email saying, I had no idea that you were interested in talking to my leadership. I thought you were meeting with me about something else. And so, no, I will not put a good word in for you. And I'm canceling the meeting. And I was like, wow, I'm just blown away that anyone would have that sort of response to extending a hand to someone that you already have a relationship with and could bring really something really amazing to the table that would benefit everybody. And so I emailed her back and I said, I'm just really perplexed. I mean, you help me, I help you, we help each other. The whole company thrives. All the people you touch thrive, like the world gets better. And, where's your curiosity of what's possible? But you see, that tells me so much about her background of fear, competition, scarcity, poverty, lack. Like, who knows what went on in that woman's background that is coming through in that email and putting up those roadblocks to being open to the possibilities of something that we haven't even explored yet. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so I tell that story because I'd like you to begin to be more observant of people, and instead of taking it on like they are doing something to you, ask yourself, well, what is this behavior representing? Because that's really the key. Everything a person says and everything a person does is information about them, all of it. So whatever someone says or does, that's information about them. And you really need to look at that instead of going, oh, they don't like me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my program. No. It's always information about them. Now, but here's caveat. And the caveat is, if what they say or do pushes your buttons, then that's information about you. So whatever button that pushes in you is information about you. And as you start to elevate your vibration, as you start to bring up your self-awareness and your emotional acuity and your spiritual acuity, then you become more aware that whatever it is going on in this moment, in this communication with this person or these people, has nothing to do with you. They might be triggered by something you said. They might be triggered just by, who knows, the color of your hair, you know? They might be triggered by that, and you have no control over that. So when we're looking at and considering people that have been through abusive backgrounds, there's a lot that comes to the table in a relationship when you're in a relationship with someone or people that have been abused. There's so much going on under the surface that it's just mind-blowing. And I think it's always healthy to kind of step back and just ask, like, where's this person coming from? Like, what's in their psyche? What's happening in their life that would cause them to behave or respond this way? And just don't take it personal. Just don't take it personal. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, these are really all of the different effects that abuse have on a person's psyche. Now, we're talking a little bit at this point about how it shows up as an adult, right? And I can share with you how it, my phone is ringing, how it's affected me as an adult. So first things first, it sent my sensitivity through the roof ever since I was a child. And in fact, when I was preschool, I started having seizures. And they were pretty heavy duty seizures. They thought I had epilepsy. And, you know, you can give it whatever label you want. Frankly, I don't care. I'm not much into labels, especially medical labels, because really it's just about the disconnection between your conscious and your unconscious mind. And when you bring those two back into harmony with one another, then disease cannot be present. So, but nonetheless, you know, I used to have all these EKGs, you know, they put these little needles in my head, and I would have seizures all the time. And I figured out at one point that it was the shrill of my mother's voice that would trigger the seizure. And whether it was the same in the moment or just a reminder of an event in the past when, because my father was an alcoholic and they used to fight a lot and physically fight a lot. You know, my mom had a nervous breakdown when I was a kid, and she ran away from our farm, and she lived in the pasture. I don't know for how long. I mean, as a kid, it felt like days. It might have just been a few hours, but it seemed like forever. And so, you know, when you have that kind of trauma, just like smacking your nervous system, it hits on all of your senses and it just wires them to, like, they're frayed wires, you know? And my sensitivity was just so intense. Like, I was so sensitive all of the time to sound, to smell, cigarette smell. I was sensitive to foods. I was sensitive to being around alcoholics. I couldn't be around anybody that was an alcoholic, and they were just like, nah, you know, like saying stupid shit. And so when I became an adult, I went through a period for like 10 years where I couldn't listen to any music. My nervous system was so fried. I couldn't handle any music. Like, I had to be silent all the time. And I love music. You know, prior to that, I was listening to music every day, all day long, and I do now. And I love going to concerts. I love live music. I love musicianship. I love picking out the different instruments in a band and listening to their own notes and their own sound. But I literally went through a decade where I couldn't handle anything. Sensitivity to light was a big issue as well. So, our nervous system, which is how we experience life through our senses. What we hear, see, smell, taste, touch, intuit, the tactile, our self-talk. We experience life through our senses, and my sensory acuity was so fried and frayed that just the slightest little thing would throw me into a spin, and it would be a fear spin, like the sky was falling, my life was over. I don't know, just crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But yet, on the other hand, there was the part of me, the side of me, that is fierce and formidable and can't keep a good girl down. It's like I always knew I had that in me, but then there was this other part of me that had just been completely shattered and broken to the point where I wasn't sure how to restore me. That's what put me on this mission in my life to help people, because as I learned the tools to repattern myself, and I promise I'll get back to what happened with that sensitivity because it's a good story. As I learned how to repattern myself, I was like, wow. I mean, I felt like instantaneous results, instantaneous goodness. And over the last 15 years, on several occasions, I've had someone send me the story of Deborah in the Bible, Judges 4 and 5. And I have dissected that story like you would not believe, to the point where, I mean, when I first heard it, I said to myself, girl, this is you. This is your calling. You have something in you that is a gift that can help people heal, whether it's through the sound of my voice, whether it's through the energy I project, whether it's through the words I use, the stories I tell, the wordsmithing I do in the emails that I put out. Doesn't matter. I know this is my calling. I know that God has brought me onto this planet in this lifetime to do this work. And I see through it, I see through the lies. I see through the spin. I see through the dogma. I've been unpacking scripture for the last couple of years. I see how it's been twisted by man to control other man people, turn them into minions. I mean, I just see it all. It's just so transparent to me. And it's because I learned how to heal myself. Because let me tell you, you are your only shot at success, baby. It's you and you. It's you and your relationship with God. And when you get that right, and I know a lot of preachers say that, and who knows what it is that they mean, but what I'm telling you right now is when you get in touch with your heart and you get connected to you, man, you're untouchable, because you are a sovereign being. It's why you're here. You were brought here as a sovereign being. Stop following the tribe. Stop participating in groupthink. Come up with, if you meditated for 15 minutes a day, you would actually come up with your own next level thought to give to the world. You don't have to wait for somebody to teach you or point you in the right direction. I just want to show you how to pattern yourself to start looking out the windshield instead of looking through the rearview mirror. So we've got a few minutes left. The The thing that I did with my sensitivity is, well, first of all, in terms of our sensitivity, how does it serve us? Well, fight, flight, or freeze. And no wonder my adrenals were so jacked up, because by the time I hit 30, I'd spent 30 years of my life um, fighting for survival, um, fleeing, whether it was like fleeing the room where the fight was going on, or the sexual abuse was happening, or the trauma was taking place, or freezing, just becoming invisible. Oh my God. I think I spent a large part of my life trying to hide myself. I didn't want to be found out. I didn't want to be seen, because as a child, if I was seen, the abuse came, you know? So just being invisible, or trying to please people. Oh my God, I became a people pleaser. I didn't even write that on my list. But that was a big deal. And now I don't care. It's like, you know what? You don't like me. It's just really unfortunate for you, because I'm amazing. So here's some of the ways that I use my sensitivity for me. I turned it into a superpower, and that's how I see through everything. I can talk to somebody or look at someone across the room, and I can tell you everything that's going on in their psychology. It's just so transparent to me. And it's there for a reason for me to see. And it's not to judge, but it's there to serve. It's there to help. It's there to be compassionate. It's there to show grace, and to, if they're open, give them a word of encouragement, a smile, a pat on the shoulder, whatever it is they need in that moment, to be able to feel just a little bit better about themselves, so that they can start to make their own changes in their own life. So I've made my fight, flight, or freeze sensitivity um, into my superpower, and I love it. It's a gift to me. Um, for many years, I denied it, and I've been in a lot of abusive relationships as an adult, including abusive relationships within my family, adult family, allowing them to abuse me. Um, and again, it came back to that people pleaser thing again. It's like, what do I need to do to be accepted? And, the bottom line is, you don't have to do anything to be accepted. Let them figure out how to accept you, and just move your life forward. You understand what I'm saying? So some of the things I experienced was depression. I think I might have been in a depression for a good decade, where I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I could do anything or move past my pain points. I just was so engrossed in it all. And it was such a heavy weight. Weight gain, I was like, most of my life, 30 plus pounds overweight. I was like a yo-yo. I had multiple sets of clothes, and last year I did a real major shift for myself, and decided that even my most dearest, precious members of my family that I love the absolute most, I chose to let them go and learn to live without them. And not because I wanted to, but because of the circumstances. And as soon as I made that decision, and I stopped trying to get them to accept me, or have a relationship with me, I dropped 30 pounds. It was like that. It just fell off my body. I didn't even try. And so, the body keeps a score. That's a really great book that's on the market right now. And the issues are definitely stored in the tissues. So if you're having any sort of disease right now, any sort of health issues, any sort of brain fog, inability to perform, manifest, intimate relationships, whatever's going on with you, you can shift that by repatterning yourself, just like I did. And that's why I teach it. That's why I teach people these tools. I also experienced massive health issues. I told you about having to sleep for basically 3 years. I also healed myself last year of a terminal disease. It's just like I refused to listen to what the medical Western medicine said I had to do to my body, start cutting and poisoning myself. And I just healed myself. We make ourselves sick. We make ourselves sick. We make ourselves impoverished. We make ourselves lonely. We make ourselves confused. Whatever it is, we make ourselves that way. And so make yourself healthy, make yourself well, make yourself clear-minded, make yourself strong, make yourself wealthy, make yourself happy. You can do it. If you can make yourself go off kilter, you can make yourself come back on track, right? I went through a big period of time in my life of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I? Who am I to stand on this stage and tell you that you can heal yourself? Well, who am I not to stand on the stage and tell you that you can heal yourself? It's true. You are the master of your own destiny. You can do anything you set your mind to. Low self-worth. I swear to you, pretty much every person I've worked with over the years has had an issue with self-worth. So let's clean that up. Abusive relationships. I think I mentioned that. I had a series of boyfriends that were abusive. Unbelievable. Avoiding true intimacy, avoiding letting anyone get really too close. And understandably, if I've got all these people in my background that have been like cruel, critical, gaslighters, abusers, who would want to let anybody in? And so I just really made my life this point of healing. First I'm going to heal Deborah. And as I do that and I gain traction on that and I'm seeing results because I've actually gone through the experience, it's not something I learned in a book. Now I'm going to actually teach the tools so others like yourself can heal yourself, because I'm not healing you. I'm healing me. And I'm going to give you the tools that I've used to heal me, and you can heal you. And you can be your own guru, which is exactly the way I think it should be. And by the way, if you're having health issues, I don't know, don't let anybody have agency over your body. Please work on yourself. Get in touch with your body. Talk to your body. Talk to your cells. Find out what they need. What are they missing? What are you not giving them? What are you giving them too much of? What are you avoiding in your life? See, for me, I was avoiding my greatness. I was avoiding this conversation. I was never willing to have this conversation in public because there was just so much shame attached to it. And so be your own best friend, be your own advocate, reconnect to your creator, and talk to your heart. The heart is intelligent. It can guide you through life with ease, far beyond your logic. Your logic is a conditioning. Your heart is infinite. You're greater than all the grains of sand on the planet. You're beyond all the stars in the sky. You have so much infinite potential. It's right here. You got to talk to this. You got to connect to this. Kiko, I appreciate the person you are and have helped me become, and you are so beautiful, intelligent, and strong. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words. Financial issues, if you don't work on yourself, you hold yourself out and apart from your money. And fear, looking back over your shoulder. Oh man, I remember when I would go to public places, and I still do it today. I have to catch myself. I always sat with my back against the wall. I never sat with my back to the open room. And it was just because of my past experiences, the volatility that my household could erupt into chaos, violent chaos, gun violent chaos, alcoholism violent chaos, abuse violent chaos, like that in a heartbeat. And so I always sat with my back against the wall in any public place. And I still catch myself doing it today. You know, if I go to have lunch or something with some friends or a business dinner, and I get there after them and I got to sit with my back to the middle of the room, I'm like really uncomfortable. And that's the patterning. That's the programming. You know, the programming is always in your cells. The thing is that you got to create new patterns. You have to create new programming in order for you to be able to get new results and new realities and new relationship dynamics and better health, and to actually have your cells duplicate into a healthy version of themselves. You know, cells are dividing all the time. And so if you have a unhealthy cell because you've driven down your energy, it's going to duplicate into two unhealthy cells. You know, it just keeps, that's just the nature of the beast. You know, it's not, I didn't make this up. That's just how it works. So question is, you know, what can you do about it? And how can you change your life? Well, what you can do about it is, I'm going to address this comment, Kiko. Learned a lot of that the hard way and still am. So I'm going to invite you to change your dialogue on that and say that in the past, I had to learn things the hard way because that's all I knew. That was my belief system. My belief system was hard about life being hard. But now I've shown myself that I can actually change. So now, as I move forward, change is easy. I create change by the grace of God. And I invite God into my life to guide me on the path of least resistance to all that I deserve, all of my abundance, all of my love, all of my joy, all of my blessings, all of my fruit in this world. Because as just being who I am, I've contributed to this universe. And this universe would not be the same if I were not in it. And just by my contribution, just by being here, just by being me, the world is a better place. Therefore, I deserve abundance. I deserve love. I deserve ease. I deserve flow in my life. I deserve kindness. I deserve abundance. I deserve happiness. I deserve joy. I deserve good health. Do you see where I'm going with this? This is for you, Kiko, and everybody else that's watching. Talk to yourself like that. You don't have to have it be a hard row to hoe, as they say, you know, in the farming world. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. You just have to allow it in. And how do you allow it in? You allow it in through focusing on something that brings you joy. So for me, all of this has changed all of my consumption. It's changed the food that I consume. It's changed the people I hang out with. Pardon me. It's changed the thoughts I think. It's changed what I watch on social media, if anything. It's changed the programming. If I watch a movie, like I can't watch violent stuff anymore, because why would I want to watch someone blowing people up or hacking people up or shooting people or even just being mean to each other? Like that, then that fosters that violence in my life, and it's like it's an assault. I'm making an assault on me. I'm being violent to me by watching violent things on television or on social media. Like, why would you do that to yourself? If you want your life to be easy, if you want your life to be loving and fulfilling and abundant and prosperous, you have to feed it with that kind of an environment. So everything is consumption. It's not just food and beverages. It's thoughts, it's emotions, it's relationship dynamics, it's conversations, it's colors, it's the environment you live in, it's it's the drugs, it's whatever you allow yourself to take in is consumption. So you have to realize that whatever you take in has to come back out into the world as you. So when you take in downgraded vibrations of fear, anxiety, violence, um, anger, criticism, you know, then what are you gonna? How are you gonna see yourself? You're gonna take that in, and so then you're gonna project that out to the world. That becomes your mindset, and your mindset is like the garden of where your harvest grows from. So that mindset is going to produce a harvest of pain, suffering, hardship, challenges, mean people, difficult relationships. Like there's just has to be a, this is where the rubber meets the road, you know, just stop, like just stop doing that to yourself. So I think that I've covered everything I want to cover for today. I just want to leave you with a prayer that, you know, you just say thank you. Just put your hand over your heart. Just put your hand over your heart and just say, you know what? Thank you, Lord, for living in my heart and for blessing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for enlarging my territory, bringing me prosperity and abundance and beautiful people that are kind and generous of spirit. Thank you for guiding me and showing me what it is that I am to do with my life and the direction I should go with my business endeavors. Thank you for bringing people into my existence that would like to do business with me, that like my product or services. Thank you for the good friends that I have that want to help me and support me. Thank you for the blessings that you bestow upon me every single day and for the abundance. And thank you, most importantly, for raising the bar on my vibration and helping me to love myself as you have designed me to love myself. And finally, thank you for loving me. So, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. I've got an amazing show coming up next week. And so please stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. I'm on every major podcast platform. Definitely get this episode out to all your friends and your colleagues so that they too can benefit from this message. And if you're looking for a way to uplevel your life, I've got some management and leadership retreats happening both on the East Coast and the West Coast. So go to the website, leadershipandmanagementretreat.com. And I look forward to seeing you guys really soon. Lots of love. Thank you for being with me today. Take care. Many blessings. Happy Easter.